It is not an exaggeration to tell you that this tool has taken a job that I often would dread and has turned it into a job that is so simple, one of the quickest ones I will now complete, as opposed to being a job that sometimes would just take way too much time to accomplish. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a look at my top 8 game-changing plumbing tools. I am always on the lookout for new tools that will make my job easier and simpler. Some tools I've purchased will make my job marginally easier, others don't really make a difference. Every now and then I find one that makes a night and day difference on a given job and truly turns a job from one that I don't enjoy to one that is actually a pretty pleasant experience. Now, I have been searching online trying to see what other tools other plumbers may have come across that have made their jobs easier, because I'm always looking out for new ones. And I don't see a lot of information out there. I found a few, and that's how I've come across most of these tools myself. But I wanted to go ahead and put this video out there so that if you are a plumber or a tradesman, or maybe even if you're just a homeowner who does your own work and you just like giving yourself great quality equipment, that you may see something on here that you didn't know about that's just going to make life easier for you when you do this task. Now, the tools on this list are going to range pretty widely in price. On the more expensive side, you can spend up to a few $100s on a tool, but I also have at least one tool on the list that is less than $10 at the time of this video. I will be providing links to every single tool we're going to discuss in the video description. Some of these links are affiliate links. This simply means that if you click the link and proceed to make a purchase, I will make a small commission and no additional charge to you. If you choose to do so, that really helps out and I appreciate your support. If not, that's totally okay. I'm just glad you're here watching the video. And in case you're hearing it, I also want to point out that yes, I am filming this outdoors and there happens to be a lot of noisy bugs today. I am hoping that between my shotgun mic and my very minimal post-editing skills that I've slowly been accumulating as I've worked on these videos, I might be able to minimize those sounds and make it less distracting. If this ends up being a total flop, let me know and maybe I'll redo this in another setting. Without further ado, let's get started. Our lowest ranking tool on this list is going to be the Micro Stubby by Pipevise. This tool is not necessarily one I would say is game-changing in and of itself, although it is a great quality product and it does a great job grabbing on and turning random smaller bolts and nuts. Most of my other tools in my arsenal can do this. The reason this one makes the cut for me is simply because of the little sheath that it includes. I'm able to carry this tool on my belt, and when I go through a job doing kind of just a general inspection at first, it's very common that I'll find a use to be able to just pull this right out of my pocket, tighten something down, stop a leak, and just by having it on my belt saves me another trip to my vehicle. For me, that's a win. That's worth the cost of this product. We're going to go ahead and move on now to number 7. Coming in at 7th place is the Delta Bonnet Socket. This tool is lower on the list only because it's so infrequently needed, but when it is needed, oh my goodness, is it a game changer. If you've ever had to repair a Delta shower or tub shower valve, then you're probably aware that on the more modern style valves, there is a nut that needs to unscrew that holds the Delta cartridge in position. Over time, this nut does not want to come off properly. You go to use a standard pair of pliers on it, and more often than not, it's just not going to turn. Now, I have been told that there is a trick you can use with a Fernco coupling. You get a 2-inch Fernco, clamp it onto the nut, and you can get it to unspin. I've actually had success with that, but the success is varying. So I eventually bit the bullet. I purchased this little bonnet socket here. The way it works is there is an Allen screw that you tighten down. It then clamps over the nut, and you can then remove the nut. You got plenty of leverage to pull it off of there. I have yet to have an experience where I actually had to cut the nut off and replace it since purchasing this tool. This has so far completely eliminated the frustration of those Delta nuts for me. So again, not frequently used. It's definitely a niche specialty tool, but the amount of assistance I get out of it definitely merits it being on the list. Now, at number 6, we have one of my original favorite game-changing tools. This is one I purchased many, many years ago. It's the Knipex Comfort Grip Cobra's Smooth Jaw Pliers. Now, these things are fantastic. I do use them for some other instances from time to time, but I really specifically purchased these for showerhead installations. Yes, an adjustable wrench works fine. You can make that work, and I did so for many years. But I don't love the fact that if you don't get the adjustable wrench set just perfect, you're going to slowly begin to round off the corners of the shower head. So I purchased these flat jaw pliers many years ago now, and they have been absolutely phenomenal. They are my go-to tool for doing shower head installations, except for occasions where customers pick out a cheaper head that's got a plastic nut. They tend to be rounder and you have to put your pliers on there. Not really a lot of options other than putting standard pliers that are going to mar it a little bit, but when you have a good quality shower head, this is the way to go. At number 5, we have another tool that's been around for a while now, but still an absolute game changer. This is the Jam Bar. This particular one is by Wolverine Brass. There are a number of different brands who make them. As you can see, mine is pretty worn down. I've had it for a number of years now, and the teeth are kind of fading out. In fact, I'll probably go ahead and purchase another one as soon as this video is over. If you're not familiar with this product, this is a wonderful tool for use when you're going to pull a toilet from the floor, and they've got old brass bolts that are corroded in place and they just want to spin and spin entirely. Most of the brass bolts don't like to stay put into the flange. Prior to using this tool, I would sometimes have to cut the nuts off of those bolts. Other times I might be able to get a flathead screwdriver and kind of push up against the bolt underneath the nut and pull up just a little bit. You can then often get it to work, but with this tool here, you just simply slide this underneath the nut. The little teeth will grab on-to the bolt, hold it in place, and then you can spin the nut free. This tool may not work 100% of the time, but I would say it works 90% of the time. And honestly, though, the 10% might be the fact I'm dealing with an old tool with worn down teeth. So I'll purchase another one after this. At number 4, we have the Ridgid Sink Installer tool. Now this tool is probably not going to be new for some of you, but at one point in time, it was an absolute game changer for me. It's completely made things easier for me when it comes to faucet and supply line installation. I don't really use it for disassembly. I've heard many people who have had horror stories of trying to remove an old corroded nut and then the completely snaps. This is made of a thick polymer material, which is not going to be quite as durable as a metallic material or a basin wrench is. So I'll still use a standard basin wrench when I remove old faucets, when I remove old supply lines. Specifically though, for installing center set lavatory faucets or some of those kitchen faucets that still have the deck and the shank with the plastic nuts, this thing is fantastic. You don't have to worry about the spring on your basin wrench operating properly, gripping it properly, making sure it stays clamped onto the nut and doesn't slide around. This has got little tabs that are going to grab onto the nuts and just hold it in place as you tighten it down. I'm often able to actually set it in position, scooch myself out from the cabinet, hold the faucet in place while I tighten it into position. That's something I've never been able to do with the basin wrench. It also works well for supply lines. It's got this little piece right here that is designed for various different nuts, one of which works perfect for pretty much every supply line I've ever used. Additionally, it works as a basket strainer install assist. This little piece right here, you can grab a hold to the center part of your basket strainer as you're installing them. I'll sometimes use it for disassembly as well in this case, because I'm not actually removing the strainer with this tool. This just holds it in position. But for installation, it's really nice, holds it in place for you. If you're not using one of the styles that screws in position, if you're actually using a standard style that you rotate the nut, this is going to help you hold that basket strainer secure, in place, and nice and perfectly centered. So again, game changing in the sense that if you are still using a basin wrench, this thing's going to help out a lot. It is lower on the list though, because I think most people are probably already familiar with this one. All right, we are now in the top 3. And at number 3, I have a very simple tool that I really should have purchased years ago. This is my Kobalt electric screwdriver. Yes, some people may say that this makes you lazy. I say, yeah, it makes me lazy. And you know what? I don't care. This is really nice when installing trim screws, such as the Moen trim kit, really any shower trim kit. These are tools that don't necessarily make you a better plumber, but they're going to make your life easier, make your life simpler. And this is one of the lower cost ones that has really made mine nice. If you were in the industry, you probably expected to see the Knipex Cobra Comfort Grip water pump pliers come up. These are number 2 on my list. If you've ever gone from standard pliers to the Knipex, then you know what I'm talking about when I say that these are an absolute game changer. Yes, the set is pricey, and you can spend a little bit less if you don't want to get the comfort grips. They also offer these in alligator as opposed to Cobra. I believe the only difference that the Cobras have a locking button so that it's not going to slip. You simply press the button and slide it around. The alligators do not have that button. I don't think there's another difference other than that. I've never used the alligators. I went from standard actual channel lock brand pliers to these, and it did take just a little bit of getting used to on that button, but at the same time I had plenty of occurrences where the channel locks would slip and slide out of position to the point where I didn't mind getting used to the button. I really love these. I would recommend these for anyone, whether you're a plumber or a tradesman. Honestly, even if you're just a homeowner who does your own work around the house, these are fantastic tools to have. My favorite thing about them is kind of twofold. One, you've got so many different positions that this can open up to. Standard pair of channel locks has got a lot less positions it'll open to. As a result, sometimes with the channel locks, you find yourself having the handles kind of wide apart. It's a lot more strain in your hand, you don't get as much leverage. With this set, you can pretty much set the head wherever you need to, and you're gonna be able to close the handles almost entirely, if not entirely, giving you much more leverage. I absolutely love that aspect. But the other thing that I love is the fact that these are perfect for rounded surfaces. They work for flat as well, but on rounded surfaces, like if you're working with gas piping or a lot of the pressure reducing valves I install, I like to use dual unions. I'll use threaded connections on many of them. They grip so wonderfully on those. Those unions are typically rounded. That was another aspect where using standard channel locks just really was a pain. By the time you get them tightened down, it would have been an unnecessary amount of effort. These guys completely solved this. So, Knipex Cobra Comfort Grips, number 2 on the list. At this point, we're going to really quickly take a look at a couple of honorable mentions. I really wanted these to be on the list as I absolutely love these tools. These have been tools that have made my jobs easier. I didn't feel they quite met the same game-changing tool caliber as some of the other tools on the list. Even so, I think it's well worth you knowing about them. The first one we're going to look at is this little 764 Allen key by Wera, I don't know how you pronounce it. Let me know if you know. Yes, this is actually an Allen key, even though it looks sort of like a screwdriver, or I guess it could look sort of like an awl. I recently came across these. I was looking for a T-handle one. I wanted something large that was long that could get past Moen handles. Using a standard Allen key, you turn it a little bit, you got to reposition it because that little L shape gets in the way when you go to tighten and remove those handles. I was initially looking for something that was a long T-handle shape so I can get past there and have a nice grip. I purchased one, Wera makes one, I went ahead and got that, but I found this at the same time. I purchased this one and I found that this has become my absolute go-to. This works perfect for those Moen tub shower or shower handles. Slides into position and you don't have to worry about ramming into the handle with the L portion shape of it because it's simply not there. Not exactly hugely game-changing, it just makes a very simple task already a little bit simpler, so I didn't think it really merited being on the official list, but even so, one of my favorite new purchases, and you may find it helpful. We also have the Safety Cut Ferrule Cutter. Now, I have gone through a number of different ferrule pullers. When I'm replacing compression angle stops, I prefer to go ahead and remove the old ferrule and just use all new parts. And there's plenty of instances where there's not enough pipe sticking out of the wall to cut behind that nut and ferrule and feel like I have a comfortable amount of piping to still work with. So I've gone through a number of different tools trying to pull the old ferrules off, and for the most part, every one that I've tried, that I've purchased and used, it's worked, but I run into a problem with many of them where I'll pull the ferrule off of the pipe, pull it onto the tool so that I can then remove it. I now have access to the pipe, I can do my job, but one of two things happens. Either it's completely squished in the pipe, it's reduced the outside diameter of the pipe all along instead of just where that ferrule goes. I'm not really comfortable with that. Or now the ferrule's stuck on the tool and it's kind of a pain to get it off the tool. It can be done, but what ends up happening is I found that for the most part, when I was using those systems, if I didn't need to remove the nut and ferrule, there were times I just said, I'm not dealing with this. I'm just gonna reuse the old nut and ferrule, make sure it doesn't leak, and if it does, then I'll deal with it then. Because if it's gonna leak while you're on site. Eventually I found out about the Safety Cut ferrule cutting tool, and this thing's been phenomenal. The way it works is you loosen up the nut, and then you'll see that this little piece here, when I rotate it, is gonna drop in. You can then slide this piece here into the copper pipe after you've removed the valve before you slide into the pipe, and then as you tighten this down, the little cutting blade is gonna come back out, and eventually you'll hear a little snap. That ferrule has just snapped, it's no longer one piece. You can then remove your tool, and the ferrule's gonna come right off of there. You haven't done any kind of damage to the pipe, and you no longer have to worry about battling a ferrule off of another tool. So there's a lot of other great products out there. This just happens to be my preferred. This one here, I really wanted it to make the list. In fact, the only reason it didn't is because I consider this less a tool and more an accessory, and as this video is on my favorite game-changing tools, I just didn't feel quite met that criteria. Even so, I prefer this over some of those tools that have made the list. Now, this is the Milwaukee SDS Plus bit attachment kit. I'll show you what this allows you to do. So you have a SDS Plus hammer drill like this one. I use this one a lot on toilet flange installation. If I'm securing a toilet flange to a slab floor, I'm gonna be drilling holes so that I can properly secure it to the floor. So what I can now do, instead of bringing in this drill here and then a secondary drill to run my screws, I will take the SDS Plus bit that's included, snap it into the drill, go ahead and make my holes as I need to. Once those holes are done, I will then take the included sleeve, which slides right on, and you'll see that we've got these little flat end attachments here. This will actually grab onto, pops in place, and you can then put various bits into the tool. You then put your drill in standard drill mode, and now you could go ahead and run in your Tapcons or whatever you're going to use. It also comes with a 1/4 inch attachment, and I've got a couple of star bits in here as well. I don't know if it included those or if it included a different one. I swapped them out. It looks like it included them. It includes a T25 and a T30. So this has prevented me from having to bring in multiple drills into a job where I'm securing a toilet to the floor. That's particularly nice if the toilet is, say, on the basement level and you've got to go all through the house, bring your equipment. Sometimes that's even enough to keep me from doing a whole extra trip depending on what all I have to bring in. So absolutely love this kit. I don't really see it as a tool, so it didn't make the list. Certainly an honorable mention and one of my favorite pieces of equipment that I've purchased. All right, now it is time for my #1 favorite game-changing tool I have purchased. It is not an exaggeration to tell you that this tool has taken a job that I often would dread and has turned it into a job that is so simple, one of the quickest ones I will now complete, as opposed to being a job that sometimes would just take way too much time to accomplish. This is also the most expensive tool on the list because in order to use it to its fullness, you're going to have to make a little bit of an investment, and I will explain that to you. But the tool in question is the Tub Twista tool by Toolceptions. And oh my goodness, this is a specialty tool, but it makes such a night and day difference when you are removing a tub drain that no longer has the little crosshairs on the inside. So you can remove one with the crosshairs. You see, we've got the crosshair option on here. You can use it for installation as well. I would use it with a ratchet for that. But the other side here, the extractor, this is really where it shines. Now, I have used other tub drain extraction tools in the past. My preferred one prior to purchasing this tool here was the Golden Extractor. The way pretty much every tub drain extractor tool that I have used in the past works is you insert it into the drain, you then use a pair of pliers or a ratchet, whatever the specific tool calls for. It grips internally into the drain, and with enough force, you'll eventually get it to come out. That's the idea anyway, in theory. In practicality, I would say even with the Golden Extractor, which I have by far had the greatest success with prior to purchasing this tool, it was maybe a 30 to 40% success rate at best. I've even had instances before where I went to use the proper extraction tool, and the way it works when you're using a pair of pliers or you're using a socket, a wrench, is you're just putting so much force tugging and tugging and tugging on it. The way it distributes that force, it can actually crack the drain piping a little bit beyond. It can pop it out of position. Now you've got to open up the wall, you got to get back there and completely redo that portion as well. More often than not, prior to purchasing this tool, the only way I could truly get a stubborn drain out of position if the Golden Extractor wouldn't work was to either slowly chisel the drain out. I would put a chisel on the top flange portion and carefully beat it with a hammer, slowly getting it to rotate until it eventually would come out. Or you can very carefully take a mini hacksaw, cut on the inside, make 2 little strips, pop that part out of there, and then using the Golden Extractor, I then would have a greater success with it. In that application though, those threads usually end up getting a little bit damaged, and there were times that I would spend more time just trying to clean the threads up and get a proper installation than I actually would the entire removal, which was already a pain. This thing makes a night and day difference. So the reason I say this is the most expensive tool on the list is, one, this particular piece itself is already a bit of an investment. I think I spent somewhere around $100 on it. But in order to properly use it to its fullness, you need a little bit more than just a socket. So I invested in the Milwaukee Impact Torque Wrench. This is the 1/2 inch M18 version, and I went ahead and got an impact rated extension, pop it on, and with this tool here, watch this clip. Yeah, I didn't speed that up. That's actually how quick they've been coming out. And since I've purchased this setup, I have yet to have a single tub drain that wouldn't come out that quick, that easily. The internal threads on the tub shoe are still in great shape. You can reuse it. Yes, this is another specialty niche tool. you're in the industry, collecting special niche tools that make certain aspects of your job easier are eventually going to accumulate to a lot of aspects of your job being easier. But the reason this gets number one on the list is truly, this takes a job that I hated. Having to extract a tub drain that does not want to come out, and has just made it a piece of cake. Again, all of these tools will be in the video description. Feel free to check that out. Thank you for your support if you choose to use some of the affiliate links. Thank you guys for watching. Leave it a like if it's been helpful. Subscribe to the channel if you like more information. And you guys have a great day.